Carol and I have both been merchant seamen for many years, and our interest lays in the shipping industry. Now, to see this vessel being neglected the way it was, something had to be done. 5 years ago you would have said, oh, we'll scrap it. And I think that was the attitude at that particular time, just neglect it.
It's just the way it was.
Just the way it was.
Yeah.
The economics of it. We would have lost a lot of our heritage in Port Adelaide, the maritime heritage. We haven't got anything left now.
Yeah.
And this is the most important, iconic heritage vessel in South Australia. There's no other vessel that can come anywhere near this. This vessel, 3 times smaller than the city of Adelaide, sailed all the way across the Atlantic in howling gales, all under sail, no motors were used. And the hardships that those people on board would have endured, such as food. It was all hardtack, it was all salted food. Food that had been dried up in the riggings and all that, which was at that time. And the shortage of water, because the more water you carry, the less cargo. The cargoes are paying on, so they called it pound and pint. You were allotted so much water a day. Maybe 2 or 3 gallons of water a day, and that was to drink, wash or cooking.
Another good history is, the war service in Sydney Harbour, when the Japanese sent the submarines in there. She was on duty, she reported hitting which she believed was one of the submarines. The submarines did get in there, they fired torpedoes, and I think their intentions were to hit an American warship called the Chicago. They fired and missed, they hit a billeting vessel, probably an old ferry, and killed many Australian young seamen on there who were training for sea.
Jap submarines invade Sydney Harbour. Their only victim, an old ferry boat converted to Navy use. 2 torpedoes found their mark before the invaders were blasted to the bottom. Divers locate the invader craft near the harbour entrance. One by one, all 4 are raised to be salvaged for scrap. Some never had a chance to fire a shot, so quickly were they destroyed. Australian Navy men say these underwater raiders are bigger than the type sunk by the Americans at Pearl Harbor. At any rate, these are 4 deadly fish that didn't get away.
And then she went up around Milne Bay, New Guinea, and all places like that in the war, and eventually she was returned to the owners. But when you look at this vessel, coming towards 100 years old, most of that served in Australia. Naval vessel, war vessel. I think that she should have a big birthday as such when she's 100, and if the state government, federal government could come in and back it and put some money into this, it should become a national treasure of Australia, I think,
So Keith, if something wasn't done, this ship would decay and die.
And we were afraid that it would be sent to the breakers and scrapped. Like most of the historic vessels in Australia has been done in the past. We've got a graveyard that's down the river, and the importance of the ships that are down there of yesteryear has just been neglected and wasted.
Yeah.
It's just a junkyard down there now. And we were afraid this was where we thought this one would end up. It's just not a story of a ship, wooden iron thing, and that's it. It's the history of the people that come from here.
A ship's a living thing, isn't it?
It's a living thing.
It has a past, it has a present, and we hope it has a future.
There is no vessel like Falie that encapsulates a whole spectrum of not just our maritime heritage for about the past 100 years, but also the coastal trade. And she's the last of the coastal traders in our ketch fleet, under sail. And even when she was doing the Kangaroo Island run, a lot of that was under sail. She was the last of the ketch traders. And this is a story that needs to be told because it's the human element that comes forward.
This is the most important one because if it was left to whoever, it wouldn't matter who was running the show, this boat would be with the Nelsabeers sitting on the dock rotting with the water running through it, and it's just disgraceful. I'm not a seaman's backside compared to these guys, and so thanks to Keith thinking I'm not going to let this ship go, and recruiting us virtually, he press ganged half of us into this boat. You know, we've just been able to do such a wonderful job of salvaging it from, as Keith said, the wreckers, because that's where it was headed, you know.
I worked on the Yalta for a while, and we were sitting there one day and we were talking with Keith about this one laid up there, and it was cobwebs and redback spiders and rust everywhere, and if no one got on board her, the government would have loved her, I expect, just get rid of her. And if it had gone into private hands, usually what happens then is they come on board, they buy the vessel at a good price, and they're going to do all sorts of things, and most of the times that all falls through, and just there goes the end of the vessel, you know. But then, you know, I come on board mainly, my idea was that I'll do the chip and paint and maintenance, make her look good, then the public look at it and they start to say, gee, she looks good, why aren't you going, why aren't you sailing? Well, that's the impression we want, why aren't we sailing, you know?
Yeah. And it would be good to see her go back into survey, because she has got fantastic commercial potential, and she was realising that before they found the issues with the hull. There is something, there is a spirit, there's a soul that this ship has, you know, and hearing the blokes here reading through the stuff that Errol has found in relation to even the soldiers when Falie was HMAS Falie. You know, the same things, the same theme comes through. Something magic about this ship.
My late father-in-law served on the HMAS Falie, and
did he?
He did, and
there's a story in itself.
He ended up a sheep farmer out of Jerome, so there was Falie passion in
Jerome.
That's right. Well, guys, it really is up to the South Australian community, isn't it?
Very much.
You're doing the work, you've made it happen thus far, but
we need the community to come on board.
We need everyone to say, look, this is something we cherish, this is something we value, and get behind the team who are doing the work. And
yeah, I'd like to mention that the state government in the last year or so, they have taken quite a bit of interest in it, this ship vessel, and we put on the slip, and they've done quite a bit of work to it, and we're very pleased with what they have done. And they're still sort of hanging about and showing interest, and they're looking at getting our engine going at the moment. So everything they're doing is starting to be positive. Very positive. So we just like to keep encouraging them along the way, and if they start not taking so much interest, we might have to stir them up a little bit. But at this time, they're doing well.
Also, a little bit of encouragement to the Australian Maritime Fisheries Academy alongside here. They've opened up their workshops for us.
Oh, that's
but
fantastic.
Also Susan Close, she's very much a passionate supporter of Falie.
I would strongly suspect many South Australians feel some connection with this vessel.
Not only in Port Adelaide, but right around the west coast, mainly in the west coast, places like Elliston, Venus Bay, Streaky, Sejuna, right around to Fowler's Bay. This was operating a regular service, delivering all the foodstuffs and farming equipment to these small outlying outports. And if it wasn't for the vessels like this, the economy of South Australia wouldn't have been as far advanced as it got, because there was no such thing as road transport right up until the Second World War. And Once we took all the cargo right round to places like, as I said, Fowler's Bay, we then backload all their grain, all their wool, and brought it back to places like Port Lincoln to discharge into overseas ships, or Wallaroo, or Port Adelaide, Port Pirie as well. Now, I remember doing a trip like that, and it was 30 shillings a trip. No matter how long the trip took.
A handsome fee.
Well, we had no such thing as equipment that you've got today, where you've got weatherproof gear that you don't feel the cold. All it was is maybe a towel wrapped around your neck and an old army coat that you could buy.
And your Port Adelaide Guernsey underneath.
Oh no, you wouldn't waste that. That was up in the wardrobe. Yeah, so I really like to see the Maritime Museum or South Australian museums take the responsibility of this vessel.
Seems appropriate, Keith.
But at the moment, it's just not on their radar at all. As I said, it is part of our history, and the maritime history has got to be told by the museum, the proper people to do it. Another problem I've got is, not I, but we, the vessel's got, is getting people interested, the local business people in Port Adelaide,
Yes.
get them interested in it. Next week they've got a festival in Port Adelaide. That's great. Advertising the historic tall ships. So I asked them, could we be part of it? And because we have to be towed up through the bridge and berthed outside the pancake kitchen area. And they said, no, we haven't got the money to do that. And we wanted $1,000, and we could have been up there for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
My goodness.
To do.
Yeah.
But the local community said, we haven't got the money, so that's why we're sitting here now in the derelict car park.
Yeah.
We've got all the dirt and dust and leaves falling all over us. No one knows we're here. When we had the tall ships here, we had over 1,000 people come aboard to inspect the vessel.
Right?
People lining up.
Yeah.
And we virtually burnt us out. We couldn't bloody get up the next day. That's where we need the extra people to come on board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To have an open day on board here, we at least need 10 people.
So we get a bit more paint on.
The volunteers on here just can't do it themselves. It has to be by more people volunteering.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe just take that role. Instead, we don't want them to go out
Orientating.
and chip and paint. We'd like them to be part of the management team.
We could set up a Power versus Crows wheat bag loading competition.
That's a good idea.
Get them truly fit.
They're not allowed to wear any Crows gear when they come up that gate.
No.
Talk about bias. don't you?
Exactly.
Well, we've got a passion for the vessel. We want to keep it there. We fight as long as we possibly can, but it's retaining our heritage in the port, and we're just not another group of guys come down, have a coffee, do a bit of paint and go home.
Yeah.
It's a passion for the vessel. It's a passion for our history in Port Adelaide. We need that message to get out to the people.
When I came to Port Adelaide, I went upon the speed. Money at last I spent it fast, got drunk as drunk could be. When my money it was all gone, it was then that I wanted more. A man must be blind to make up his mind, go to sea once more. I spent the night with Angeline, too drunk to roll in bed. Watch was new and my money was too, and in the morning with them she fed. As I roamed St. Vincent Street, was the old it roar. There goes Jack Tar, the sailor man, who must go to sea once more. As I walked on down the street, I met with the rapper Brown. He asked him, would you take me in? He looked at me with a frown. He said, last night you was paid off, your job's with me no more. Could I take in advance and I'll give you the chance, send you to sea once more. They shipped me on a whaling boat bound for the Arctic Sea. With cold wind rolled through the frost and the snow, and Jamaican rum runs free. Unless I had no luck for the year, left all my money short. It was then that I wished to my God I was dead, or safe with the girls ashore. So come you bold seafaring lads, listen to my song. Heed me well before you ship away, you don't go wrong. Listen now, drink no strong liquor, don't sleep with any whore. Get married lads and have all night in, and go to sea no more. Get married lads and have all night in, and go to sea no more.
Is that all right?
That is brilliant.